This is the CineSnob Podcast.
Welcome to episode 215 of the CineSnob Podcast. I'm Jerrod Kingery.
I'm Cody Villafana.
So, Cody, I'm in a different spot again now. This is going to be this is the final spot. I got to tweak the camera still because you should be able to see the Muppets Take Manhattan up there, but it's a little washed out. So.
Yeah, well, like I said, on my end, you're super pixelated, so I don't know if it's going out to our broadcasters pixelated, but yeah.
I certainly hope not. I am getting a notice that my connection is unstable, so that's wonderful. So anyway, yeah. We were talking yesterday. I've moved my computer, as you can tell. I'm rearranging this room. As a result, I had some old hard drives come to the surface, and on one of them, I found a treasure trove of video, as we've called it, of the show known as Flickr Footnotes, yes. Which, if you've been around San Antonio, was formerly a Bob Polensky hosted thing, the late Bob Polensky. Longtime film critic in San Antonio.
Sorry, we're getting some reports that you're pixelated and choppy coming in from Twitch.
Oh, cool. Well, you know what? Let me see if I can vamp. If you can vamp for a little bit, maybe I can plug in an audio Ethernet cable. So
yeah, I'll do this.
Give me a second. Vamp, Cody. Vamp.
I'll vamp.
Just answer questions and stuff.
So Kingsley says he is a little pixelated. What's up, Kingsley? Oh God, now I'm on the spot. Yeah. So I'll just talk about this. So the reason it's funny that this came up this week is that yesterday actually was the 10th anniversary of my first review at CineSnob. Oh, he's back. I'm back.
Hold on 1 second. Let's hope this doesn't die. So give me 1 second. Let's pray.
Yeah. So it was my 10-year anniversary of my first review at a film critic review at CineSnob. My first review was for Captain America: The First Avenger.
Hey, look! Can you see me now? Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Cool. It's still
This is our best intro I think we've ever had.
I lost you for a brief second. Yeah, okay. We should be good now. This computer does not like to use Wi-Fi. So anyway, yes. I heard you talking. It's your 10th anniversary.
10th
your
anniversary.
First review.
Yeah, it was Captain America: First Avenger. I think I gave it a B- at the time. In retrospect, I'd probably bump it up to a B maybe. But I didn't want to, back then
you were a tough crowd back then.
Yeah, I was hot shit at 22.
To be frank, it was probably because you'd only seen it once. That's when you used to I have to watch it again to make my final decision.
Yeah. And also I think maybe I didn't want to be like, comic book movie. I can't give it too high of a grade. But then again, that year I also put the Avengers in my top 10. Or would have been that year?
That was
the following year?
Avengers was 2012.
Okay, so it was the following year.
That's when you really turned the corner. Was 2012 on the comic book movies.
Yeah.
So as I was saying, we Kiko Martinez, former co-host and of course CineSnob founder, used to do this web show with Bob Polensky that also aired on WOAI-TV, where I worked at the time, and that's how I ended up meeting Kiko. With Bob Polensky back then being in failing health, he had to leave, and I took over to bounce stuff off of Kiko, and so I found one of the very first recordings we did of that. But then, this was stuff that actually aired on TV. By the way, there were segments of it that aired on TV for a while. Kiko and I were on TV in San Antonio. Yeah. I don't know that you were ever part of it when it was on television.
I don't think
when it just moved to the web.
Yeah.
But I did find what I believe is the first appearance of you in the video show. So it's you, me, and Kiko. So this is like a proto podcast.
Yeah, and I think at this point, I don't know you at all.
Yeah, we didn't know each
at
other
this
very
point.
well. I barely knew Kiko. I'd known Kiko for like a year, and I was like, "Who's this fucking punk ass kid?" 22 and hot shit.
You started off in like a hosting capacity, right? Like you weren't
Yeah.
reviewing initially, right?
No, and then Kiko asked me. He's like, "Hey, do you know how to write?" And I'm like, "Yes." So then he's like, "Well, here." So he gave me my first review, which has got to be right around the same time as yours, was the Tribe Called Quest documentary, Beats, Rhymes, and Life, directed by Michael Rappaport. Anyway, it was a good movie. It's kind of a subject matter you couldn't fuck up. But so yeah, I'm gonna play. I've uploaded this to our YouTube channel. So if you want to watch this this proto episode of the CineSnob Podcast, it's uploaded to the CineSnob YouTube channel. So here I'm gonna play. I'm gonna share the screen here, and can you see that?
Yep.
So here, this is the we'll talk over it, but here's the intro and our introduction. And
I have not seen
and
this.
our immaculately framed shot.
Hi, welcome to Flickr Footnotes. I'm Jerrod Kingery. With me is Kiko Martinez, the CineSnob. Also joining us again this week is Cody Villafana.
Right.
I said it correctly this time.
After like 30 takes.
After 30 takes, a lot of mispronunciations.
Oh, we lost it. But yeah, you got
Remember
there we
there's
go.
a tilde
It's choppy.
on
Look,
the
look,
end.
you get you have
Oh, there is?
the beard really helped you look like a grown up. I have to say,
Anyway,
Cody.
the show is
I don't
sponsored
think
by
that I don't
Tico's.
think there's any
Hey,
secret to that.
Hunger Games is coming.
I was clean shaven
Anybody
too.
Hunger Games fans here? Anybody?
We were talking about Hunger Games.
read the
Monica?
books?
Where's Monica?
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that's how long ago this was. That it was like thick in the Hunger Games. At the end of that,
Oh, go ahead.
I believe at the end of that segment,
Here's a nice comment here. Yeah.
what is
Cody
Cody looks like he's 12.
I was about 22 or 23 at that time.
Yeah. So this was this was February 26th of 2012. So the movies we review in this episode are Wanderlust,
Okay.
which is
David
Paul.
Wayne.
It's Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd and Jennifer Aniston, right?
Mhm.
I think that's the first. I think that's the first time I really remembered seeing Jordan Peele in something.
Oh yeah.
When he
he's
when
in
he
that.
talks about like shitting and it being connected to the earth, and the second movie we review, Cody, a rather infamous one, as far as I'm concerned, Act of Valor.
Oh, I
the,
never saw that.
Oh, it's terrible, but that's the one that's the cast is real Navy SEALs,
Yeah.
and people got pissed off at me for not liking that movie. We also mentioned we didn't review them. Tyler Perry's Good Deeds, and of course Tyler Perry movies never screen, and then a movie called Gone with Amanda Seyfried. I'm not familiar with it.
No, I don't know what that one was.
I don't know either. And the DVD recommendation we made when we made DVD recommendations was for a movie called Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene, starring then relatively unknown Elizabeth
Her
Olsen.
first movie.
Is it her very first movie?
It's her first movie, yeah.
I know she was in like her sister's videos. That's when we were like, she's the Olsen twin that no one knows, or whatever. Olsen's sister, and then like,
Yeah.
she's huge.
Two things. One, I don't think that's our first appearance because in the intro you say joining us again is me.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I couldn't find a video from before that.
Yeah.
Because I have.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I have like a year's worth of videos on this
Yeah.
hard drive, and I saved everything from then.
So the other thing I wanted to point out, I'm going to share the screen too. Much like what Kingsley said, we have uploaded this and we have started to get comments. And I just wanted to point out that
Oh, really?
Fuck YouTube has said, "Was this Bring Your Son to Work Day?" So thank you, Fuck YouTube, for that comment.
Also, notice in the notes, we gave away tickets to John Carter.
Oh wow!
And then we all predicted The Artist would win Best Picture on the Oscars coming up that weekend. We were 100% right on that.
Yeah.
Also, I haven't really thought about that movie since then.
Yeah, it's one of those Best Picture winners that sort of faded into obscurity after some time, but. Yeah, this is a super it's a super strange time capsule thing. And also, like, the funny thing about this is that this episode is like 17 minutes long, and by the end of it we were in like the 20s. Like,
yeah.
It was very strange that we were doing like a 20-minute web show for a TV station.
Well, here's the thing. Mine and your friend Bob Gambert, who Cyber Bob as he was known back then, and I think still is, his goal was to just pump content out on the website to try to get video views. And at this point, we had been taken off the TV side of it. Because we used to do a 3-minute segment that would air during San Antonio Living on Fridays. And we would air they had a 1-minute segment we would do on Tuesdays. And it was strictly because the producers, that was 4 less minutes of time for them to fill a week. So it was like a favor. I mean, it was well produced. I mean, we had the full resources of the station at the time. Like, I think if you watch that clip, you hear like it's raw footage. Like it's as soon as the recording starts. So you hear one of the PAs. I believe it's a woman named Kelly who's counting us down. I talk about Monica was one of the producers of San Antonio Living who was like walking through at the time. Mentioned the director, a woman named Kate Martin who was there for years and years and years. It's just funny, like, the resources that were thrown at this thing. It was
it was shocking to me too, because, like, I mean, first of all, I was scared shitless every week I went in and did that. Like, this is pre-podcast. It was pre-streaming. I had never been on camera before. And it would be one thing if we were just like walking into like this random thing, but no, we were on the set of the news, the news that I watched every day and stuff. Like, and so, directly across from us is like literally like the anchor desk and stuff. And we
were on the green screen.
Yeah, we were on the green screen with a row of seats, like, and like there's lights, from up top, and we've got like a professional news camera filming us. And I remember the first time I stepped in and I'm like, oh no, I don't like this.
I remember, I had been in the biz at this point 12 years, so I was well used to it. This is the funny thing is, like, you're quite a bit shorter than I and Kiko are. It was like the decision didn't come lightly for you to have to stand on an Apple box.
Yes.
It's a very common thing, and I don't want you to think that that's embarrassing, but it's a very common thing for talent, news anchors. Like, pretty much every station I've worked in, there's been like a someone who's very, very short and someone who's very, very tall, and whenever they put them on camera together, like, whoever that short person is has to stand on the Apple box, and it's just what it is. It's just, you've seen the picture of who's it, the baseball player who's standing on the Apple box, like talking to this female reporter who's very tall. Mm-hmm. It's a famous like meme thing. But anyway, the thing was, like, this was before like budget cuts, like before fun, like, so we basically had this full production crew just sort of standing by. It was these I'm looking at the comment. Sorry, your buddy Kingsley asked if you were taller than Tom Cruise, or said you're taller than Tom Cruise.
I am not.
Okay, well, a boy can dream. But we had this.
Tom Cruise and I do share a birthday, though.
Oh, happy birthday to you two! That was just a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah, July 3rd.
How much?
We're both July 3rd.
Oh, look at you! He's what, 56, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
He's old, too old to be a fucking fighter pilot in the
59.
Navy. 59. Holy shit. He looks
59
amazing.
This year.
Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so we had this full production crew standing by. So it was just like, hey, you want to use the studio? Fuck it, let's use the studio. So that tapered off later. By the time Kiko and I recorded the last one of those, before I left San Antonio, we were still doing them up until 2015. I mean, it was like in front of a robotic camera in a room that was like, it was way different at that point. So it was a really it was a very fun experience. And I'm gonna upload all of them that I have. There's quite a few of them. There's like a year's worth on this hard drive. Basically from 2011, like early, from like April 2011 to like the summer of 2012, I believe.
Yeah, I feel like I think I was there doing it for like maybe 6 months. It was not like a super long stretch of time. But we probably did it like, I don't know, 10 times or more with me.
Probably. Yeah, like I said, this was the first one I could find that had you in it as well. So we talk about it like it's the first time it's not the first time you joined us, but shit, I don't know. I don't know if we were just fucking around or what. It is funny to like see the reviews of things or see the lists of things we reviewed, like just stuff that I forgot existed.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
I wonder if this was the day that we met David Robinson, because I'm wearing the same shirt.
No. Well, maybe. He was in the studio that day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's another time before that I know that's not the same time, and then there was a time afterward. It may have been. He was there with his kid, right? Because his kid had like just gone, like been.
I think it was. Oh no, his kid was like home for the summer, I think, or like about to go to school or something like that.
Yeah, one of his kids.
So,
I don't know. I don't remember which kid.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, you can watch those on the YouTube channel. So I've got 2 of them up there now. I've got the first one with Kiko and I, and then the first one with the 3 of us.
Wouldn't it suck if those got more views than our current show?
The thing is, like, they don't exist anywhere else. Like, because of the corporate changes, that's the worst part about, like, there's a lot of things, but we worked, this was at WOAI-TV, which at the time was still was part of a station group called Newport. But we lost the domain when the station got sold to Sinclair. So like that website that existed just was gone. All the content was gone because Sinclair didn't have the infrastructure to import anything. So all that shit we recorded was just gone. There's still snippets of it that live out there because we used a video hosting platform called I don't remember what it was. Something that I was able to find clips because we were looking there. There was we used to do the Spurs Roundtable. I don't know if you were ever there for that. I found some old clips of that because one of the guys that we worked with, a guy named Eric Johnson, passed away a couple of years ago, and he had some really funny appearances on there. So I was trying to track those down, and it was so hard because the fucking website's dead. Like, it doesn't exist, and this video lives in like little chunks somewhere. It's such a weird thing that like.
I mean, I remember
this is not even that long ago.
I went back trying to find the Flickr footnotes not terribly long ago, and I there was nothing, not even a trace. So
yeah.
Well,
here they are, buddy.
Before I move on, one more question coming in. Did you come across a movie that you completely reversed your opinion on? I'm sure it's out there. I mean, I was scrolling through my old reviews recently and written reviews, and I saw that I gave a pretty bad score to Popstar, the Lonely Island movie.
I can't believe
and
that.
Now I love that movie. So I'm sure somewhere out there in these videos are some movies that I've changed my mind on, but
I don't know that in this time frame of videos there's anything, but I do know that like when I first saw the first Guardians of the Galaxy, I had a splitting headache, and I know that affected my opinion, but I was ready for it to be over. And then watching it again, I was like, oh, this is a really good movie. Like, it's really well done and interesting. I don't know that there's been anything that I like outright hated and then loved, but something like Starship Troopers probably comes close. I don't know. There's things that I've like appreciated more as time has passed, but I'm not sure. It's a good question, Kingsley28. We'll think about that. Okay. Anyway, like I said, you can find some of those on the YouTube channel already. I'll get the rest of them uploaded one of these days, but it's a fun look at down memory lane. Anything else, Cody, before we move on?
No, I think we're ready to go and talk about some polarizing movies.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to reviews.
Here are this week's reviews.
First up, we have Old.
Everything's gonna be okay. What's your name?
I'm Trent. This is my sister, Maddox.
How old are you guys?
I'll guess I'm good at this. You're 11, right, Trent?
I'm 6.
No. Really, are you 10, 11?
He's not lying. He's 6.
I'm specifically 6 and a quarter. She's 11.
They're feeling unsafe. There is a lot going on here.
They're playing with us. Let's leave it.
Have you seen my children?
Is everyone trying to play a joke on us?
What? Aren't these your children?
I'm right here, Mom.
This is the latest film from, at one time, revolutionary writer and director M. Night Shyamalan, who, of course, has in the past fallen off, and I think he's kind of revived his career a little bit with Split and Glass, whatever you thought of those movies. I liked Split more than I liked Glass, and I didn't really like Split all that much anyway. But this is the latest sort of back to the formula he's a little more known for, sort of the unexplained phenomena thriller. Cody, we've talked about this one quite a bit already, but Cody, tell us about Old and what you thought of it.
Yeah, so I mean, I think there's no secret. It's no secret that Shyamalan has had like one of the more interesting like falls from grace kind of careers, and that, you know, when The Sixth Sense came out, like he was on top of the world. Like somebody posted this, I don't remember what magazine it was, but it was like touting him as the next Spielberg, right? After The Sixth Sense came out. And
there's a lot of Hitchcock talk too.
Yeah. And almost immediately that went away, you know. Unbreakable was,
it took a little while for it to go away. It didn't really all go away until like The Happening.
Yes, but also, you know, he started getting panned very, you know, not like 5 years after that. So, you know, it's, you know, Unbreakable was super polarizing, but I know a lot of people who really like that movie. Signs, I think, was pretty solid. But then like starting with The Village and then Lady in the Water and then The Happening and then just crashing and burning with, you know, like After Earth and The Last Airbender. So it's been an interesting career, and he has had somewhat of a resurgence. And I think in large part because I think what he found was that I believe he started like financing his own movies completely, and then they started making money, and now suddenly he's got a career back, even though, and it's strange because he was never like truly in director jail, even though he probably should have been. You know, the longest he's gone without making a movie is like 3 years. So the
1-2 punch of After Earth and The Last Airbender were pretty massive. I think that's as close as he got, because those were two that were like for hire, basically.
Yeah,
like they weren't his projects.
Yeah, so you know, with Old, you get you know, I'm sure people by now have seen the trailer of this. I don't know. It's for me from the get-go, this movie seemed bad. Like, I mean, I think the trailer is not the greatest, mixed in with the movie is called Old. Like, it just seems like it doesn't inspire confidence. I don't think anything about it. And so you get a movie where this family goes on to this island, and then they run into some other people on the island, and then they notice that the children start aging rapidly, and then eventually everyone starts aging rapidly, and they can't figure out why. This movie is strange in that it is very oddly paced. Like, it feels like Shyamalan was like doing coke writing the script, because it seems to like bounce around. So like, I don't know if you felt this too, but the first like hour of this movie is just like ping-ponging back and forth between scenes. The editing is really poor. The scenes just kind of blur and blend together. I don't know if it's maybe it's intentional to start.
I feel like it's intentional in a way to like make it off-putting. Is really
Right.
the only solution. Really the only like reason I think that is, because it's like you get a lot of like shots of people like really low in the frame, or like just out of the they're just on the edge of the frame, or like there's a lot of panning and like swirling.
Yeah.
But that's in my opinion, that's the least of the problems. But go ahead.
but again, it just keeps on like bouncing around to these different characters, and then like slowly but surely the whole thing becomes unraveled, and then you get your talented young actors, and really do them a disservice by making Thomasin McKenzie and Alex Wolff act like children. They're supposed to be. Go ahead.
In the scene we just watched, like that's not Alex Wolff. He comes in later, but Thomasin McKenzie already has a very childlike voice, but they talk like fucking morons in that scene.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway.
I mean, everyone in the movie is a moron. And I think that's one of the calling cards of the movie. Is that, look, I mean, I think Shyamalan is sort of not known for being a great writer. And I think it shows here. And there's just a lot of really stilted, stupid dialogue, and the characters are very one-dimensional. And the more this thing kind of descends into chaos, I think the more ridiculous it starts getting. And also the rules of what's going on don't seem to make much sense. And it sort of follows this really uninteresting pattern of like everything just sort of like, again, like I said, devolves, and I just wish that the characters were interesting on any level. But I was just having a really bad time with it. And I thought that it was very dumb. And like I said, the script just keeps bouncing around, and the dialogue is terrible. But the one thing I will say about it is that, and it's not really fair to call it a twist. It's more of like a plot point. You figure out like what's happening at some point, and you do get answers. And the idea behind everything is not terrible. Like it's actually kind of a good idea, but it's almost as if Shyamalan came up with this idea and then built a movie around it, and that movie was really bad. Like, and it's a very half-cooked idea that's not given nearly enough time. I mean, it's literally the last, 10 minutes of the movie is where, just the dump of everything that's going on is revealed, and you see the consequences of it. And, again, it's like a half-baked idea, and then he builds a movie that's real shitty around it. So I thought that this was, really bad.
Well, so I'm really when it got to the it's everyone expects a Shyamalan film to have a twist, whether fairly or unfairly. He's really painted himself into that corner. I don't agree. I agree with you that it's not a twist. It's just the answer to the movie. Like, it's just this is what's happening. And I actually, at that point, I liked it. I liked what was happening then. Everything before it, just about every single thing before it, is an exercise in some of the worst dialogue I've ever heard coming from ostensibly a major motion picture. Like, this is not an independent film. This is a Universal film. Shyamalan is back, so to speak. He doesn't quite command the same respect that he did especially after the Sixth Sense and Signs. I think those are his two that people find pretty unassailable. I'm not as big a fan of Signs as some people are. I mean, I didn't hate Unbreakable, but this is, like you said, everyone in this movie is a fucking moron and talks like a moron. So, like that scene we played the clip of, you've got the two characters, Ken Leung and I forget the woman's name, their husband and wife, and they're talking like they're the kids that start the film at like 11 years old. The girl is 11 years old and the boy is 6 years old. They're clearly bigger. Like you know the premise of the movie going in, and they're clearly like growing, but the movie treats it as like a reveal that doesn't, like, it's very unsuccessful.
It's
because,
so drawn out too.
Look, they're on a fucking beach. Like there's a beach, like an open beach with no shelter, with rocks on either side. So you'd be able to like you'd look over like, oh fuck, my 6-year-old son looks like he's 13 now, and my 11-year-old daughter is a grown woman, and like the movie takes forever to show that, and then when you finally see it, the characters take forever to even acknowledge what the fuck is happening.
Dude,
I'm like, they're getting old. Like, they're clearly aging. It's clearly what's happening. Like, there's nothing else to this.
What's really funny about that is that I had that same thought where, like, Vicky Krieps, the one who plays the mom of the kids, like 5 times is like, they're having an allergic reaction. Like, what are you talking about? They're aging. Like you think that they're having a reaction to something and it's causing them to get taller and their faces to change,
grow, and like develop into adults. Like, they have adult bodies. Like
it's so stupid.
the daughter, it's a younger actress. I think Alexa Swinton is her name. It's someone who's I'm not sure what she's been in. But then she turns into, like, her first age progression is Thomasin McKenzie, who you know from Jojo Rabbit. Is also they played the trailer for Last Night in Soho before we saw the film, which is obviously hasn't come out yet. But she's for whatever reason, that character stays as Thomasin McKenzie for most of the movie until she becomes like a middle-aged woman eventually. The son ages like twice and goes from like being 13 to like, I guess 18. I don't know. That at which point Alex Wolff starts playing the character, who has to act like a complete dipshit. Like, it's so terribly embarrassing. Eliza Scanlon also plays like another woman. From Little Women, who plays like another couple's daughter, and they just act like complete morons. And like, it takes forever for anyone to realize what's happening. Then there's a reveal, and I don't know how this went over in the theater where you saw it. There's a reveal of the first time you get a good look at Alex Wolff and Eliza Scanlon as these two characters. Mm-hmm. They come walking out of a tent toward the rest of the group. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
The reveal of what has happened. And should we spoil it? I don't know. I feel like, okay, she's pregnant.
Yeah.
They had sex as mentally 6-year-olds. She got pregnant, and she's like full-term pregnancy.
But she thinks she just ate a lot. If you listen to her,
I mean, and it's so fucking stupid. It's so dumb. It's all so stupid. And I mean, the dude sitting next to me, we saw this at the Draft House. The dude sitting next to me went fucking wild when this happened. He went like full like Chris D'Elia, like, yo, like, I mean, he was just real dumb. But we laughed so much. There's another scene too where Vicky, what was her name? Vicky Crispy. Did I say that right?
Krieps.
I forget. Krieps. Sorry, Crisp. Anyway, for whatever reason, by the way, the mother is European and the father is Gael Garcia Bernal, who's Mexican, and the kids are just Americans for whatever reason.
And they live in Philadelphia.
Oh, so Gael Garcia Bernal plays an actuary mentions that no more than like 30 times in the movie. There's another scene where Vicky Krieps has the whole like she has a tumor at some point. Like that's part of like some health scare. So because they're aging rapidly, the tumor starts growing rapidly. Rufus Sewell plays this doctor who's a maniac, but they end up doing emergency surgery on the beach and having to hold her skin open like she's Wolverine because it's healing too fast. Yeah. And they yank this tumor out. And she wakes up and Gail Garcia Bernal said something like, "We got the tumor." And the whole theater just erupted in laughter because it sounded so stupid. But that's the whole problem with this thing, is that every bit of dialogue is so dumb. And these characters are so dumb. Like they have no concept of, like, clearly you're getting old. Clearly they're aging. There's who's the woman that plays the kind of trophy wife of Rufus Sewell? Oh, there's she has this
Abby Lee. She
has this body horror thing that goes on, and at one point she's aging and she has like a calcium deficiency or something. And again, she mentions that no less than like 8 times. And there's a scene where she notices like her back is like she's getting a humpback or something. Mm-hmm. And she just bellows, "My calcium!" It's so laughably stupid and bad that it doesn't, like, it takes any kind of like suspense or seriousness out of it and just throws it to the ground like a wet fucking thud.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm going to say God bless Rufus Sewell for giving the most committed performance of the movie. Like, he's trying out there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he does some of the the stupidest stuff. Also, the one of my favorite things, and like, people that clearly don't know rap music, stop trying to give rappers fictional. It's like trying to give fictional rappers names, because there's a character in here who is like he's the first guy they meet on the beach, and he's I guess a rapper like that. Like the daughter recognizes him as a rapper, and she goes, "Dad, that's Midsize Sedan." His name is Midsize Sedan, and that's how he introduces himself.
Yeah. You know, I saw someone say this on Twitter, so it's not my original thought, but someone pointed out that the conversation that happened between Thomasin McKenzie and that actor that plays Midsize Sedan on the beach, they were like, I watched that and not a word of that conversation makes any sense. So like nothing that's being said, like what they're talking about, the connection that they're having just makes no sense.
I don't remember what it was, but it was like nonsense.
Yeah. It's the whole thing is just nonsense. And you know what? I think when we talk about these movies, there's always that kind of like bad move, like so bad it's good kind of thing that you can, sometimes extract something fun out of a bad movie. It doesn't make it better, but it makes the experience like a little bit more tolerable. I was not enjoying it. I was becoming frustrated by it. So we're laughing about it now, but I think that it's funnier like out of the context of sitting there being subjected to it in the theater. So
yeah, it is, because it's 108 minutes long. It feels way longer than 108 minutes because you've got so much time of these characters just willfully not knowing what's happening. And it's frustrating because it's clear what's happening. And then when it starts to happen, like nothing seems to happen at the same rate. Because like the movie states like, oh, we're going to age 50 years in a day. But like Gail Garcia Bernal like never really looks any different. Like Rufus Sewell, I don't think changes at all. Like he doesn't look any different. The kids grow up, but then like I said, Thomasin McKenzie plays the character from like, I assume like 14 to 30. I don't know. And then Alex Wolff has just the worst line deliveries in the whole thing. I mean, it's so terrible. Yeah. It's so bad. But But yeah, and then when you get to the end, like the reason why it's happening, like it's actually kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But by then, and by then, and there's one moment that seals the whole thing for me. That's like there's no redemption at all for this movie, and that's the scene with Abby Lee, like when you learn her final fate. Mm-hmm. It's so ridiculous and comedic that it extracts any sort of drama, any sort of compassion from the whole thing. It's just like, this movie fucking sucks. At that point, it's like there's no getting around it. By the time you get to that end, you're like, well, this was a good plot reveal, but the rest of this movie sucks so bad.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's your grade for Old, Cody?
I am giving Old a D. It's for me, it's just unwatchably bad. And like I said, there is a good idea in here, but it's like an hour and a half too late.
Yeah.
So.
I'm going to agree with you, a D. I was going to give it the gentleman's F until that final little section where I'm like, well, shit, this was good. This is a good idea. Why is the rest of this movie so stupid?
It's almost like it's again, like, I don't mean to like slam Shyamalan here, but I kind of do. It's that I don't know that he's smart enough or good enough of a writer to pull off a movie around the idea this is based on. Like there is an idea there that could lead to a good movie, but that's not what we get.
Well, yeah, and this is another problem. It usually happens with like long-running TV shows, like Westworld, for example. Like, I don't know if you ever watched the first season of Westworld, but there's like a twist in it at the end where but everyone picked up on it right away. And that's the problem with this movie is that one of the problems this movie has is that the movie expects you not to realize what's happening until the characters do. And you're like, well, no. Like, first of all, we know the movie's called Old and we've seen the trailer, but even then, like you said, the mother reacts like, oh, they're having an allergic reaction and whatever. Like, it's all fucking stupid. Like, why don't you just, why is that this drawn out thing?
Yeah.
That's what it really just destroys the movie. And I think that the dialogue is so weak that it just ruins any kind of momentum this movie would have had getting into that final act.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, Snake Eyes.
You saved my life. Why?
I'm not a murderer. I looked into your eyes and I saw honor.
I owe you. We are going home.
I don't have a home.
Not yours. Mine.
What is it exactly you do?
For 600 years, our ninja have brought peace to the world.
But things have changed.
I need warriors like you to become the future of the clan.
It's yours, if you want it.
Let's go.
This is the third live-action G.I. Joe movie. As you saw in the trailer, some reviewer calls it the best G.I. Joe movie yet. Not a high bar to clear because did you ever see the other two G.I. Joe movies? There's G.I. Joe Retaliation. I'm sorry, G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra, which starred Channing Tatum and who else was in that? Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Sienna Miller. Then there was G.I. Joe Retaliation, which was like a soft sort of reboot of that franchise that had The Rock as in a like the lead role. I think that one's worse than the 2009 one, and the 2009 one isn't a good movie. So here we are 8 years later with G.I. Joe, Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe Origins, something like that. Now with the lead character, instead of back then, those two movies, the character was silent, mostly played by stuntman Ray Park. But this is full frontal Henry Golding What did you think, Cody? I
It's a
mean,
weird
not this
phrasing.
time. You're seeing his face the whole time. Cody, tell us about Snake Eyes and what you thought of it.
Yeah, so I think it's important to point out is that my understanding is that this is a reboot because there's new actors in playing similar or the same characters from the first couple of movies, right?
Right. You're getting in G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra, you had Ling Bian Hung as Storm Shadow. In this, you have crap, I'm forgetting his name already.
Andrew Koji?
Andrew Koji, yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's probably the biggest one right off the bat. You also had you had Sienna Miller playing the Baroness. You have
someone else playing that
Ursula
Samara
Corbero.
Weaving part.
Yeah. I don't remember if Scarlett was in the original one.
She was. I checked it on the old Wikipedia.
I don't remember who played her.
It was
it was Rachel Nichols. Rachel Nichols. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So coming into this movie, I have no experience with the G.I. Joe movies. I just skipped them when I saw that they were bad and I didn't have to see them. So I came in kind of cold on this whole mythology and everything. And this movie is very, very strange to me. Because it is like almost like an entirely straight up like martial arts movie in a way. Not and it's sort of like martial arts with added like guns and stuff. It's like that action movie, but there is like a martial arts element to it.
It's like a Yakuza movie mostly.
Right.
Like a Yakuza movie with yeah.
And I don't mind Henry Golding in the part. I think Henry Golding's a good actor. I think that the story is okay. I can one thing I will say about it, I wasn't ever bored in the movie, which is I think a testament to it being at least entertaining. But the movie gets bogged down in a couple of different areas, in my opinion. I think the first one is that Snake Eyes as a character is like almost overwhelmingly morally ambiguous, where you said this to me in a text, but like he's kind of a dick, like and throughout a lot of the movie, and for me, I was having a really hard time understanding character motivations because they seem to be changing scene to scene, where like certain like especially the character of Snake Eyes like does something terrible and then just like changes his mind and everyone else is cool with it after that, like in that final act of the movie. So the character motivations are strange. And I think the other piece of it that's weird to me is that in no way does this feel like a G.I. Joe movie. Because the first hour of it, there's no mention of anything until Samara Weaving shows up, and you get a little bit of exposition dump of the connection to G.I. Joe and Cobra and all this other shit, and then Samara Weaving disappears for half an hour, and like she doesn't come back for another half hour. I'm like, where is she? Like, what is happening here?
Yeah, like her last line before disappearing is like, "I'll be on my way. I'm on my way to Tokyo. I'll be there as soon as I can." And like, it's like it's like a real time flight to Tokyo. It's like, oh, it's 12 hours. Like,
I mean, I was looking at my phone. It's literally 30 minutes until she shows up again, and she doesn't show up until an hour into the movie. So for me, I don't think that it really successfully connects this to the lore of G.I. Joe, because I mean, I think it feels like a G.I. Joe adjacent thing for all of like 20 minutes maybe. And so the whole thing is just a little bit baffling to me. Now, like I said, I think that it's entertaining enough. I don't think that it's terrible, but it's just very, very weird. And it's, and I think it's just a little bit underwritten. I mean, I think, like I said, story-wise, I think there's enough to give that character motivation, but it's his motivation seems to be like on a spectrum rather than just being like directly going for something or having his allegiance or alliances. Like allegiances and alliances change, and it just feels a little bit like convenient for whatever they're trying to pull off. Action scenes vary. I mean, I think there's some ugly looking stuff with a lot of shaky camera for effect stuff, and then you have anytime I see Iko Uwais show up, who who
Yeah.
plays is a
Hardmaster.
He has a very pornographic name of Hardmaster, but he's like the main actor in the Raid movies. So I'm always excited to see him show up. But you get some stuff with that. Yeah, I found I think maybe because I went in cold and I don't know anything about G.I. Joe in general, I was just confused by the whole experience.
So, okay. So I'm of the G.I. Joe age, obviously. There's not, from my understanding and from the exposure I've had to it, and I didn't read the G.I. Joe comic books, which is where a lot of the super fans take their lore from. A writer named Larry Hama is the guy who's responsible for like writing all the little bios on the back of the action figures, if you ever came across one of those. And he wrote the comic book for years. Snake Eyes was always sort of a mysterious character. Like, his origins were not, from what I understand, were not like set in stone. It was like he was a commando. Like, the only real connection that the movie has with the lore that I'm familiar with is the idea that he and Storm Shadow were close, and then they get blown apart, like drifted apart. However, the way this movie is laid out, everything about that rift is entirely Snake Eyes' fault. Like, it's entirely on him. Because the idea, so the action scenes, there are some really good ones. I really love the kind of first escape that Snake Eyes and the Storm Shadow character have. The way the truck ends up just like pin cushioned with swords. It's a really great scene. It looks really cool. But at that point is when the motivation of the Snake Eyes character gets murky, because you have these like crosses and double crosses. And then and I told you, I described it to you like this, and another friend of mine, that like an hour into the movie, you get this just heaping dollop of G.I. Joe shit just thrown on top of it out of nowhere, which is the only real connection to G.I. Joe, with Samara Weaving. And then, Baroness is the kind of liaison for Cobra, but you don't get any of the lore that comes with it. And then until the very end, you get a little bit of stuff like the trailer, the clip that we played from the trailer. Like, you don't see Snake Eyes in that full the familiar uniform until the last shot of the film. Like, he doesn't become that characterization of it. And Snake Eyes never talked. Like, that was one of the things too. Like, he was silent, for whatever reason, some sort of penance, I assume. But anyway, I as a standalone movie, I think it's fine. But connected to G.I. Joe, right now it feels like they don't know what they want to do with the franchise. So they made this thing that's very, like, it's the origin of Snake Eyes, and it's probably the easiest way to go because he's one of the most popular characters. And they have this very faint connection to G.I. Joe because they don't really have an idea of what they want to do with that franchise yet. Like, the property it's dormant right now when it comes to filmmaking because the first two flamed out. So they've got this backdoor in however they want to do it. But I don't know that it successfully ties the two together well, because it just sort of like Samara Weaving just sort of shows up and helps fight. And then there's some weird like supernatural elements to this too that really come out of nowhere. There's all of a sudden like giant snakes and then like a powerful stone. Like, it doesn't fit with the rest of the aesthetic. And even the rest of the G.I. Joe, like the original G.I. Joe aesthetic, which was like futuristic military stuff.
Yeah, and I think that it has some, even though it's never boring, it does have some odd pacing stuff too. Because there's one section of the movie where Snake Eyes goes on like a motorcycle ride and does something, and then the very next scene he's taking like one of his tests that he's supposed to do, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Like, I forgot he's doing these tests.
He's got 3 tests.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was just a strange experience for me.
I do have to say, it really looks gorgeous at times. Like, I don't know how much they really shot in Tokyo, but there's a lot of great, very Tokyo-esque images, like probably on a soundstage, but like there's some parts that like it's clearly really Tokyo, and it's there's really great looking stuff. It's such a confusing movie at times because it's good enough, but it just doesn't ever quite feel like it's going to be anything bigger than it is.
Yeah, well, and if it wants to launch the character of Snake Eyes and try to reboot the franchise, it is weird to make him that morally ambiguous as it does here, where you don't really know what side he's on other than his own for a good chunk of the movie. And also, I don't think that it necessarily, like, I think it does a little bit of disservice in the way that it introduces the clan of the movie, because I think that it gives like this confusing, like, where do they side on this thing? Like, are they good or bad? Because it's almost seemingly like they're presented as bad and then suddenly they're good. And then, it's just weird. Cause
I'm like, I didn't know where they stood. And then when they're like buddies with G.I. Joe, I'm like, oh, so they're the good guys.
Mm-hmm.
And so, wait, how is Storm Shadow going to end up as the villain? Because that's his ultimate fate. Like, if you know anything, like that's what we're seeing set into motion here. Yeah, I mean, I don't dislike it. It's just, I'm confused about it as an origin story for G.I. Joe, because that's, I mean, it as much as it isn't about G.I. Joe, it leaves you with a, like, okay, G.I. Joe is next sort of feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, what's your grade for Snake Eyes?
This is tough. I think I'm going to ultimately give it a C+. Like I said, I don't think it's terrible. I think it's watchable, and I think there's some good stuff about it, but it doesn't come together, and so I can't recommend it.
Yeah, you know, I'm going to give it a B-. I think it's good enough and enjoyable enough. I wish it were more confident in its connection to G.I. Joe, and it's one of those things that I think we've talked about before with like the Transformers movies. Like, they just don't have the for whatever reason, these Hasbro properties, they don't have the balls to go like full Marvel and just make it as comic booky as they can, or as, I guess in this case, toy liney as they can. Like, it's got to be semi-serious. I don't know. I just don't get it. I mean, at least it's not a Transformers movie. I mean, I'll say that. And at least it's not the Stephen Sommers G.I. Joe movie. And also, like, this feels like it should have just, this should have been on Paramount Plus.
It will be in 45 days.
45 days. But yeah, I think it bombed at the box office, as you told me, like 13 million, which isn't great.
No, it was
harbinger for the future.
It was budgeted at somewhere between 88 and 110 million. So,
but I mean, you know, we are in the thick of another COVID outbreak, so who knows? But it feels like this probably this. Oh, you didn't hear? COVID's back, sort of. It's not over. I know that you haven't been vaxxed and you don't want the Fauci ouchie, but
well, now that, you know, Sarah Huckabee Sanders said that she got the Trump vaccine and it's okay, so I think I might take that step.
Okay, well, yeah. Anyway, that's going to do it for this week. Next week, what do we have, Cody?
Well, we got a trio of films coming out next week. We have Jungle Cruise.
The
Disney movie based on a ride. So trying to follow in the footsteps of Pirates of the Caribbean there. And
they're still trying to do that. Still trying to do that all these years later.
And I think you had mentioned too that part of the idea behind that ride, it was sort of like fourth wall breaking, right?
Yeah, it's very corny.
But
like
intentionally,
it's not
right?
Yeah, it's not presented as like it's not presented as reality. It's presented, I mean, it's presented that these fake animals are real, but it's not presented as like a serious cruise through the jungle.
Gotcha.
Like the whole, like whenever the trailer first came out like a year ago, like the whole backside of the waterfall thing, that's part of the ride.
Okay, yeah.
Anyway.
So we also have the Green Knight, the Arthurian tale, directed by David Lowery. And then we have the new film starring Matt Damon, Stillwater.
Yes, I've been seeing a lot about that. Anyway, I'm looking forward to the Jungle Cruise. Hopefully it's fun. I don't know. I think it's the last Disney Plus premiere release that's on the docket. I don't believe I think, by the way, we saw a trailer for we saw Old last night. We saw a trailer for Shang-Chi. They need to get a better trailer editor because that's a terrible trailer. That has none of the Marvel magic in it, but that's the one I'm we've talked about this 1,000 times, but I'm curious how that one plays.
It'll be interesting
when it's released.
For sure.
Anyway, if you want to reach us, you can email us at podcast@cinesnob.net. You can find us on Twitter @CineSnob, Facebook CineSnobNet, YouTube.com/CineSnob. You can watch those classic videos of our Flickr Footnotes days when we had less hair and stood in front of a green screen. And those seats. You remember those seats that were there?
Mm-hmm.
I assume they're still there. Like, someone kept telling me, like, "Oh, you get your seats." Like, they're not mine. They belong to Santikos.
What are you supposed to do?
I don't have anywhere to put them. I don't know. But we at the time the show was sponsored by Santikos. It was like part of a sponsorship deal.
Oh, okay.
And I asked them one day because I had a different setup that I liked, but it was too much work. I asked them for some theater seats, and they're like, "Yeah, sure, we'll build you some." And they literally brought like 5 theater seats on platforms, like carpeted platforms there. And to my knowledge, they're still at the WOAI building downtown. So
God bless them.
Anyway, they're like probably like 3 iterations of theater seats ago. They're like bright blue.
They're old.
Yeah.
Old.
All right.
M. Night Shyamalan.
Old. Starring a bunch of dumb people. Anything else before we go, Cody?
Nope. Just subscribe to us on YouTube. Rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts and wherever you get podcasts. And we'll be back next week. I think we're both seeing, or at least we have access to Jungle Cruise starting tomorrow. So,
is it coming tomorrow? Yeah. Screener wise.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about going back to the theater right now?
I've been enjoying it, but I've been very strategically trying to like pick when I go. I think the busiest theater I've seen was when I went to Bo Burnham Inside on Thursday.
Oh, yeah.
How
was that?
It was interesting. Like I'm glad that I saw it in a theater. The one thing I noticed is that Bo is giant, and I think it really comes across on the theater screen versus like being on a TV. But it was interesting to see the audience reaction because the audience did not react like overtly. Like there wasn't a ton of like uproarious laughter or anything like that. And there's some really funny stuff in there. But I found that to be super interesting. So yeah,
I got your poster for you, Cody. So.
Thank you.
I'll have to get that to you. All right. On that note, I'm Jerrod Kingery.
I'm Cody Villafania.
Thank you for listening to the CineSnob Podcast. To read reviews, interviews, and more, visit CineSnob.net. See you next week.